Ever feel like there's this invisible force stopping you from starting that one task? You know you should do it, you even want to do it, but getting yourself to actually begin feels like climbing a mountain? You're not alone. And what if I told you there's a scientific concept that perfectly explains this feeling? And better yet, it gives you the key to overcoming it. Today we're diving into one of my favorite mental models, activation energy. It's a concept borrowed directly from chemistry, and it's shockingly powerful when applied to a daily life. We're also going to talk about a very common catalyst that many of us already use. So, what is activation energy? In chemistry, it is the minimum amount of energy needed for a chemical reaction to occur. For example, for firewood to catch fire, you first need to bring it to a high temperature. The same effect happens for a boulder to go over a hump and start rolling downhill. That little push, the initial effort, it's the activation energy. In our lives, that hump is the effort, the mental friction, or the perceived difficulty of starting a task. It's why sometimes just opening your laptop feels like the hardest part. The problem isn't always the task itself, but the energy required to simply begin it. This is why we procrastinate. Our brain is naturally lazy and avoids expending that initial energy. The good news is that you don't have to push harder. You just need to lower the hump. The goal isn't to force yourself to start, but to reduce the activation energy required. How do we do that? First, you can break it down and bring it to the smallest possible first step. Instead of write report, make the first step open document and title it. Or do 5 push-ups instead of workout. Make the initial action so ridiculously small that it feels stupid not to do it. The smaller the hill, the easier it is to get over. Then you can prepare your environment. Remove friction, like if you want to exercise, lay out your clothes the night before. If you need to study, clear your desk. The less effort it takes to start the task, the better. Then you have the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. This dramatically lowers the activation energy for small tasks, preventing them from piling up and becoming a big task later. Finally, you can pair tasks. You can link a low activation task with a high activation task. Only allow yourself to listen to your favorite podcast while doing the dishes, or drink your morning coffee while reviewing your to-do lists. Now, speaking of coffee, this brings us to catalysts. In chemistry, a catalyst is something that speeds up a reaction without being consumed itself, essentially lowering the activation energy needed for the reaction to occur. How does coffee fit in? Caffeine is a stimulant. It literally reduces the mental friction for many people. That burst of alertness, focus, and motivation you get from coffee effectively lower the perceived hump of starting a mentally demanding task. It makes the initial push feel less daunting. While it's not a magic bullet, for many, that morning cup isn't just about waking up. It's about giving their brain a gentle nudge it needs to overcome that initial activation energy for the day tasks. So, next time you're stuck, don't just try harder. Think about your activation energy. How can you make the first step ridiculously easy? How can you lower the hump? And maybe a little bit of your favorite catalyst can help too. Tell us in the comments one task you need to lower the activation energy for today, and what's your go to catalyst. Also, if your mind feels fragmented in a way, you may be interested in our video about mental defragmentation. Thanks for watching.